Hello everyone, welcome back to Let's Play Legends of the Minish Cap. In the last part we got here to the Deepwood Shrine, and in this part we're gonna actually be doing this entire dungeon. These enemies, by the way, are called Slugmas.
There's a locked door here. See if you can find a key to open it.
And this is where we get introduced to the small key gimmick that every dungeon's gonna have. Pretty much, every key is one use item, and you need them to get to locked doors. You can only use them in the dungeon you find them, though, so, yeah, luckily they always give you the exact amount you need. Slugmas aren't that hard of an enemy. They take 2 slashes at this point, but if you hit them when they're falling down from the ceiling like that, they'll die in 1 hit.
Do you see that lever? I think you should be able to pull it. Just stand in front of it and press R and grab it, and press down to pull.
Like we totally couldn't tell which direction we had to pull that in, Nintendo. And you can do the same thing with these mushrooms. They'll actually fling you forward depending on how far you pull them back. Usually those little tread marks tell you how long you need to do it for, but I'm at the point where I don't need that. And this is a giant barrel. And these enemies are called puffstools, by the way.
Wow, look at the size of that barrel. Oh, right. How silly of me. It's not big. We're just small.
Mean. Well, actually, not really that mean. It'd be more mean if he was talking to Edward Elric. And by stepping on both those switches, we loosen this side of the barrel. Pretty much our goal at this moment in time is to get both sides of this barrel freed. It's just more convenient for us if we go through this way first, because, reasons. Actually, I suppose it doesn't really matter, actually, but this is just how I do it. And also, the differences between the 2 switches are, the circle-shaped switches, you need something on top of them at all times for them to be activated. Square switches, you just press down once and they're down for good.
What? Hey, be careful, my lad. This barrel just moved.
And from now that we've freed both sides, we can rotate this barrel around to get to the varying parts of the dungeon. This is pretty much the main hub. Although we're only in it a couple more times. And these are Bulldozer enemies, by the way, those little red ladybug things. And honestly, I never have trouble with them, except this one decides to be a first in my entire lifespan of playing this game and actually get in my way. He never does that, usually. Or it never does that, really. And in this, we got the dungeon map. Check it on your map screen. Lighter rooms are the ones you've visited. The blinking room is the one you're in. Press up or down to change floors. And there's a piece of heart to the right. We'll get that later. So yeah, this is the map of the dungeon. Not that... This may look big, but it's actually rather small in comparison to later dungeons. I'm looking at you, second to last dungeon. And those are pestos, by the way.
What we need now is something to hold down this switch.
Yeah, that little fly thing is a pesto. And this is the first occasion in which you actually have to push something onto a switch. And these puzzles can be painful later on in the game when you have things you can only push in one direction.
Once you take hold of something with R, use the D-pad to push or pull it. This is extremely important, so I hope you take pains to remember it.
Yeah, this dungeon, they just telling you a lot of tutorial basic stuff that you're gonna need later on. Eslo likes to interrupt in these dungeons. And by pressing both those switches, we get a small key. You needed to go this direction to get this, by the way, otherwise you wouldn't be able to progress. With that, we're actually done in this little corner. The reason we actually had to go here is because there was a locked door in the top right of the barrel room that we actually needed this to get through. Oh, I see you, piece of heart, taunting me. Actually, I think this is one of the only Legend of Zelda games where every dungeon has a piece of heart in it. Or 1 to 2 pieces of heart, at least. The only other one that I can remember doing that was... I believe Twilight Princess. Wind Waker might have done it as well. It's been forever since I played that, though. Mostly because I got into a glitch right after beating the second boss in my most recent playthrough of Wind Waker that I couldn't complete the game. Pretty much, Link was stumbling in the cutscene right after beating him. That was weird. And this room is just another little mushroom puzzle. It's not that hard at all, actually. In fact, this is well, I would expect it to be the easiest dungeon in the game because it's the first one. This room I actually gotta admit I got something wrong in, though. I remembered there being 2 switches for some reason, so I kinda screwed up and pulled about for a second. The thing is, you have to pull one of these statues onto a switch, but I forgot there was only one. For some reason I remember there being 2. And no, for those asking, you cannot push an item with another item. Well, some Zelda games would do that, but not this one. Because I remember for a fact, in Majora's Mask, there's 2 blocks on top of each other you can push. Then, Snowhead. And welcome to one of the... Well, technically this is more of a clear the room of enemies kind of thing, but it's technically a mini-boss as well. It's just 3, bulldozers, not that hard at all. Although I've always been obsessed with trying to get into the middle where the key falls, so you can get it as it falls. That sentence seems somewhat redundant in structure. Anyway, with that, we can actually head up here to the north, which you could have done before, but I don't recommend you do because you need that key first. And you're supposed to go over here, but you actually have to go over here to do some things really quick if you want to save some time later on. It's not much time at all, you can actually wait until then to do it, but I'm just doing it now. Because first off, there's a big chest here. Big chests always contain specific items, like the Temple Compass! You should find locations of hidden items, pretty much. On the map screen now, this will show chests that you haven't obtained, or the boss. Like now, there's a little skull icon on the first floor. And you also want to push this pot onto well, any of those pots onto that switch, because you need that chest later on. I see you there, piece of heart! And I think did I say what these guys were called before? Either way, they're called, freaking... forgetting words. Well, either way, welcome to the actual mini-boss, Matterpillar. This guy's rather basic. Slice his nose, that heart will show up, and you have to hit it at least 16 times for this guy to go down. When he's red, he's invincible, though, so watch out for that. He is pathetically easy, actually. Although, fun little fact, actually, the mini-boss music you're hearing right now is actually a remix of another Zelda song. While we never officially got it, in the Japanese version of Zelda 2 Adventure of Link, this was the main battle theme. They changed it in the American version for some reason, probably because it sounds too menacing. Anyway, for beating him, we get the dungeon item, the Gust Jar. Hold the button down to draw things in and release it to fire them out. It has 3 different power levels that you can go in: blue, yellow, and red, and pretty much it sucks things in faster and blows them out farther. Like that. And doing so in this room in specific gets you piece of heart number 3. Collect one more and we have another heart container. Now in this room there's a couple things we can do at the moment. Well, first off, also you can, as it said, you can also, pull things in and shoot them out. These pots you can use to kill these puff rooms, I believe they're called. Puff stools, rather. But you can also grab pots and suck them in. And items. So I could, like, suck in that rupee if I wanted to. But as you notice, there's that switch there, and there's 2 blocks to the left of it. This is me trying to remember where it is. You know, you think I'd use the strategy guide. I do have it. It's right there to my left, actually. But for doing this, we get mysterious shells, and 10 of them at that. I'm not sure what they're for, but let's just hold on to them for now. We'll find out what those are used for in a later part. Though I will say that's kind of a... There's 2 things in this game that I'm going to get, but I might be using a game shard code for later on. I'll talk about that more, one of them next part, one of them in a couple of parts later. But anyway, now that we have the Gust Jar, we can suck up this spiderweb in the barrel that you may have noticed before. And fall down here. And lily pad. Now what? Unless we find a way to travel by water, we won't be going much farther. This is kind of slow, I'll admit that much. You just have to spam the Gust Jar to move forward. This isn't the last time we'll be seeing this. This is in a couple of other areas of the game, and it gets slow. Slow. Well, actually, if you hold the button longer, like I showed earlier before I got the first piece of heart, you will have different power levels for the jar, and they do blow you farther with the lily pad, but they take too long to charge up, so it's pretty much just equaling out. Also, this is annoying. When your lily pad's just one pixel too far and you end up falling in the water, that sucks. Luckily, when you're normal-sized, or quote-unquote normal-sized in this case, because we're actually technically in the size of a Minish at the moment, you'll fall into the water, and that's just annoying. This room look familiar? This is where we got the compass and pressed that switch earlier so we can actually get to this chest we couldn't get to before. And get knocked into water by a bug. But in this chest we got a small key. You were required to do this to beat the dungeon. So, yeah. So now we have to backtrack all the way back to that fork we went at, so we can actually head north instead of east as we did before. Their lives are pointless, the poor Slagulas. And more toadstool pulling. But these ones, you actually have to use your Gust Jar. Be careful not to be too far when you're sucking them in, otherwise you may end up flinging yourself into the water in certain cases. Though it is kind of fun just to see yourself fly and gracefully dive into the water. And in here, we get the big key. This is required to open the boss of the dungeon, so make sure you do that. And press on this switch to open up the red portal. I didn't point it out earlier, but I used the Gust Jar to open up this blue portal in front of the fourth piece of hearts. And we got a piece of heart. We completed a new heart container. Your life energy has been replenished and increased, so now we have 4 hearts as opposed to 3. Thinking back, wasn't it? There's only been like maybe 1 Zelda, technically 2, that doesn't start you off with 3 hearts. Skyward Sword in the second Oracle game you play with a password carryover. And we got 20 rupees. But there's 2 chests I actually forgot to get in the barrel room and the room to the northeast of that, so I'm gonna go get those now. Mind you, I technically don't need these because of the thing I was bringing up earlier, but it's good to do this just in case. And in here we get 20 mysterious shells. Puff stools, go away. And in this room's where the other chest is. We just have to, well, hit that switch, obviously. And we got 10 mysterious shells, so we have 50. That is actually rather good for this point in the game, because mysterious shells actually become kind of hard to come by later in the game. And no, for those wondering, they're not like the secret seashells in Link's Awakening, if you have played that before. There is technically an infinite amount of them, it's just that they're kind of hard to come by later on. Because once you find your first mysterious shell, they will actually be dropped by grass and rocks and such, whatever you may destroy to get collectibles like, just bumped my mic, like the, hearts and rupees. And once we go up here, we can find the boss door. If I was a certain other Let's Player, I would end the part right here, but nope. I'm gonna try and do as many of these dungeons in 1 to 2 parts as I can. Also, usually the pots right before a boss door have hearts in them, so if you need to replenish, go ahead and use those. And random outside shot of a green choo-choo. Alright. What's going on? Well, that's not good. It's raining lemon lime jam, my god! First boss in the game against what is technically a giant green choo-choo, although it is as we saw, just a normal sized one for a Minish. Strategy for him is just use your Gust Jar against his base, you'll suck him in, and then he'll go into this prone state where he'll wiggle his head back and forth. And after a couple wiggles, he'll fall in whatever side you're on. And then just slice him. Slice and dice and hopefully kill him. In my experience, it usually takes 3 to 4 cycles of that to kill him, so yeah. Not the most interesting boss, and we'll be seeing more of this kind later on. As mini-bosses, more than likely. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, hint, hint. By the way, I love the way he looks. This game really puts the GBA to its limits with the way everything looks, because that looks awesome for the GBA. And usually by the 3rd time, he's actually moving faster, so that's how you can tell when you're getting close to killing him. And with that, he's down. And explodes violently for some reason. What is this, Metroid? Love that fanfare so much. You got the Earth Element. The power of the Earth is the source of all living things. The Earth Element is the embodiment of that power. And for beating every boss in the game, you're going to actually see a heart container appear on the screen. Collecting this will increase your total life by 1 unit, so now instead of having 4 hearts, we have 5. That's the basics of how this will all work, really.
Ah, we've got the Earth Element. We must go tell the Elder at once.
Whatever, old green man. But with that, I'm gonna need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching. Rate, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And next time on Let's Play Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap, we're going to be going back to the Elder and see what he wants with us. See you guys then.